This is Jay.
This is A.
And this is Mocksicated,
where we drop the booze and walk through the reality of life alcohol-free.
So grab your favorite mock, get ready to laugh, and let's get Mocksicated.
Hello and welcome back.
Welcome. It's a nice chill Thursday.
Yes.
Life has been a little bit chiller, I think. Calmer. Not for you? You're looking at me like this is wrong.
No, it is. I just tend to overthink things.
Never be calm?
Yes. Well, no, and this year I'm just doing things out of my comfort zone.
Oh.
Like with the kids and stuff. We have a Girl Scout sleepover, which usually I opt out of that, but since I'm in charge, they're making me do it, so of course we're doing it.
Well, and you'll be there. So
and just different things like that don't take that much, but for me, it's like I overthink it and like just all of the things. But yeah, I feel like school is going to be out in no time.
Thank God.
And yeah.
I'm the opposite of most parents. I freaking hate. There's too much stuff I got to do when the kids are in session.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I just can't do all of that.
Yeah.
I was at Build-A-Bear yesterday, and they were getting ready for a Girl Scout Build-A-Bear party. You know, they have a whole line of
we
Girl
have an
Scout
honorary
bears.
member named Cookie that's a brown bear that comes to every single meeting, has been on every excursion, wears her vest. She even bridged into the brownie from Daisy to Brownie.
Cookie in all of her glory.
Yes.
And I thought in my head, anytime I see anything Girl Scouts, I just think of you and you're leading, because it's hard. I mean, I was volunteered to be team mom and of my cheerleading team, and I'm not even I'm not the team mom that goes over the top and does all the things. I am the team mom that supports the coach. Why? Because I was the coach.
Yeah.
And I know what I needed. So the other team moms look at me a little bit differently just because I'm not the excitable one. But I know that you are friends with everyone and you make all the events, and you probably make all the events fun. And even with the effort that I put in, I am so happy to be done with that role.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot to be in charge of other
Yeah.
people's children and things too. I'm no. You're trusting the wrong person here.
Yes. No, I completely can. Yes. And honestly, people that's funny. That's a misconception of me, because people think a lot of the time oh, her kids' lunches are probably so creative, the hearts or whatever. I bet her projects are so cool. And I'm like, nope, it is very simple. I'm I have learned if I raise the bar, then I always have to do that.
Yes.
So I keep it very normal.
Well, and I think the key point is, if you thought that about her, the answer is she did do that a couple times and then learned that she can't do that, because then she's going to have to keep the bar.
Yes.
There.
Well, and
she's smart.
It's just not sustainable for all of the things that I do.
No.
And but no. And two, I also want my kids to be able to eat a sandwich that's not heart-shaped, because for a long time, Quinn would only eat heart-shaped sandwiches.
The times I had to cut, and then it's so much nicer to just do one cut down the middle. I'm this is a freeing moment.
Yes, no, exactly. And it's funny, even for theme days and stuff, people are, oh, she's gonna Halloween, she's gonna make the costume. I'm
no.
I could, but also my kids want
my kid wants to be Paw Patrol, and it's right there, so why am I gonna make it?
Yeah, I do love being creative and doing all of that, but with all of the things that we do now, if there's a convenient way, I'm going that way.
Just know she can do it.
Yeah,
that's the most important part. She actually could and would, and it would be amazing. But she is very smart with her time.
Yes. And that took a while.
That did
really
take a while.
In my brain, the dynamics changed.
They did. Yeah,
yes.
You had to start kind of figuring out, probably more recently, okay. Well, with the kids kind of doing more and stuff too, because for a while, you guys didn't have activities and practices, and you are in clubs and sports and groups. You used to say I was in a lot. Now I think you guys are out.
Yeah.
Well,
I used to say I will not sign up for an activity until my kids asked, but then I said yes too many times to these activities that they asked. That is leading to the slow burn. But no, it's
Which
always
is why she buys the costume.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yes. And I think that when your kids there's like obviously stages of childhood, and as you go through them as a parent, like the dynamics of your parenting are changing, your life is changing, the way that you're looking at things are changing. And as we always tend to do on this podcast, like sobriety is so much like motherhood in that way that um you kind of see dynamics start to change over a while. And I don't know why this is in my brain, but I'm literally picturing Tetris. Because I'm just picturing like, okay, all of this stuff is over here, and then now we wipe it clean, and now we got to build over here, and like stuff changes over time, and stuff shifts and disappears, and you just have to keep kind of like, putting the blocks down.
I think you had too much Tetris time.
I need to stop playing Nintendo.
No, I can totally see that analogy, and I think it works great for this.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But
yeah, we did see the Super Mario movie twice already now.
Ooh, twice. I know. I'll be seeing it again.
It's so good. I'm sorry. I did not enjoy the first one except for the Peaches song. That was my favorite part. I did not like anything about the first one. I'm just going to say that because my kids aren't in the room.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed both times I watched the second one.
Yeah, my kids liked the second one better too.
It was so good. Anyways, that's a shift and a dynamic change from not liking to liking. And we're going to just move on with that. I think the first dynamic that is so obvious when you stop drinking, and honestly can be one that is the reason why you don't try not drinking sooner, is friendships.
Oh my gosh, yes, so much. I think that too, when you make the decision to quit drinking, like things do change no matter what, no matter how hard you try to keep things the same. And I think honestly, you said it, like that is such a reason why people keep drinking, even when they don't want to, even when they're very sober curious, even when they've had small chunks of time, they end up going back to drinking because of the relationships. And it's just easier to not have to deal with that. And I think too that like since the relationships change a little bit, you put so much pressure on that. But also you have to give yourself grace because you're not the same. Why is a relationship going to stay the same if you are changing, you are making new decisions to better yourself and better your life? Like, of course, there's going to be a shift there.
Yeah, well, I didn't look up an actual definition because I feel like this word, like the actual definition wouldn't fit. But a couple of the things I saw online that resonated is like what dynamics means. Dynamics are the way things function, the way things shift, and the way things feel between people, places, things over time. So it's not just like what that relationship is, it's how you interact in that. It's who takes what role in those relationships, what is said versus what is unsaid. It's how power, energy, behaviors move between you and whatever that thing is. And so, to Al's point, when you stop doing anything and you turn and walk another direction, like you're taking I'm literally like picturing all of that and moving it with you. And that is the dynamic of something changing and shifting. And sobriety is 100% going to bring that. And like, just like maybe just get that in your head. Yeah. So it's not as scary.
Yes. And I think too, like when you quit drinking with certain friendships, like things do become more clear, like differences, maybe you realize your commonality is alcohol and really there's not much outside of that relationship. I think that patterns stand out more when you're sober. Like when you're drinking, you're fine listening to that story for 4 times. Gosh. It's like that is like something that doesn't bother you. I think too, when you become sober, like misalignment stands out. Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
Like normally it's like, oh, whatever, we don't have to worry about that. We're just having fun drinking now. Well, it's like, no, I'm more intentional with my time now because I am just growing as a person.
Yeah.
And so then you start noticing different things in these relationships. And I think that it becomes harder to ignore when you're sober. I think when you're drinking, little misalignments can go ignored. You know, you can just like let them go, let them go. But when you're actually clear-minded and in a conversation with someone, it's harder to let those little things go. And whether or not people see that as like rude or not, it's a boundary that you're placing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this all the time, how uncomfortable setting boundaries are, especially in early sobriety. But it is going to help you so much, like across the board.
Across the board, yeah.
In every relationship.
Yes. Let me see how I was going to say this. It just left my head. I think a part of like the friendship dynamic changing too has everything to do with like how you were as a drinker. And I think that in Allie and I's sobriety, that like the way that the dynamics in our friendships played out is so different. And I like one of the things it said here under like what dynamics means is like the roles that we played.
Yes, the roles, yes.
And the roles that Allie and I played in our friendships when we were drinking are just so different. But the dynamics are still there, you know, like for me, I was the friend, not my true friends, obviously the people that are still in my life, but the people where the dynamics changed and we're no longer friends. I was the friend that, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that people kept around to make themselves feel better about themselves because I was a mess. And so it was really easy to look at Jess and be like, I'm not that drunk. I'm not that crazy. I'm not that emotional. Because if you really truly looked at how I was when I was drinking, nobody would want to be my friend. Like that wasn't an easy person to be around. That wasn't an easy person to take care of. You had to really love me. And so a lot of the friendships that relied heavily around drinking, I kind of feel like I was kept around because it was like something that made the other people feel like I'm not that bad. And so when I stopped drinking and wasn't the bad example that I was before, those people didn't want to hang out with me anymore. And that was really, really hard for me because in my head, I'm like, I'm better now.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not, you know, driving all of these places and you don't want to hang out with me. And so that was like kind of like my first hurt, and then going back through and being like, wait, these people like would let me drive home. Like they knew how drunk I was and they were letting me drive home from these places. Like they were leaving me in places. They were putting me in situations that were going to make me drink more. And so that was like the second wave. Like the first wave was like, wait, I'm better now and you don't want to hang out with me. And then the second wave was like, oh, like I was in these positions and you put me in those positions, and like maybe I don't want to be friends with someone that would do that to me. But it did take, you know, kind of like two waves going through that to kind of break through that realization. And I know that your experience was much different because you were a joy to be around. People love, you're always a joy to be around.
But no, which it's so interesting. While you were saying that, my brain like started going, and it's so crazy to think of the roles that are just assumed in friendships. Like the fun one, the wild one, the talkative one,
the mom one,
the mom, the one that's going to stay up all night, the party planner, you know? And like, I mean, not to go too much off subject, but I know the people that are the party planners, they get burnt out. And at one point they're like, I'm not planning another party. And so parties are not planned. And then the friend group is like, oh, why? You're the one that does it.
It's always on you.
But that person wasn't like, hi, I'm here of the friend group and I'm going to be the party planner. This is my role.
Like we have jobs.
Yeah. You're here to black out. You're here to talk. You're here to stay up late. You're here to make sure we're all okay.
Yes.
You know? And it's like, we don't like really have that conversation of these roles that are assigned, but everybody is given a role just by their personality, you know, and it might be a role that we actually don't identify as, and that can be almost even more hurtful. Like, wait, no, I don't, that's how you guys see me, you know, and different things like that. And in these friendships, it just honestly brings me back to like how fake some drinking friendships are.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe fake isn't the real, just inauthentic.
Inauthentic,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, no, actually, when you remove alcohol, you really find out like who you can still have a conversation with, who you like to go to workout
Mm-hmm.
classes with, who you want to take a walk with. Like some friends that like slowly kind of left my life, it's like they didn't want to be with me either. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I was like, ew, get away from me. It was like a mutual slow
Parting.
parting, you know,
Yep.
like, okay, we got this, you know?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think that that can be hard at first to be like, oh, wait, they don't want to hang out with me. But then you have to look inside. I don't want to hang out with them, you
Yes.
know? And there is so much discovery for yourself in all of these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And even in sobriety, we always say you're coming back to you. And for some of us, we didn't not drink until we, you know, like one therapist one time told me, well, think of a time when you didn't drink, like ever. You had never had a drink. And I'm like, that's fifth grade,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like to think of fifth grade Allie, like these circumstances don't align in that
Yes.
way. But at the same time, it's like, I spent so much time in very developmental times drinking and not ever knowing what I actually like.
Right.
And so coming into this sober Alley, it's like a rediscovery of friendships, relationships, our partners.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge another shift that we'll talk about. But
I
yeah.
think it's crazy too because oh man, it just freaking went out of my head and it was so good. The inauthenticity of the friendships with drinking, it was just like when you were talking about it, I was picturing people that would just normally like walk by each other or like I don't know. It was almost like air in my head. Like people are just walking by each other and like, oh yeah, I don't think I'd ever be friends with each other. But alcohol is like this glue or this tacky paper or this stickiness that like stuck all these people together or stuck you to somebody or stuck you to some role or stuck you to some person. And that's why you're stuck to that person. You're not stuck to that person because you have any, it was the connection is what it,
Yes.
is inauthentic. And like we learned to connect in an inauthentic way. It's not even just that the friends are not authentic connections, but like the way we know how to connect is inauthentic.
Yes.
And it's by using this like sticky paper glue to stick us all together in situations that we shouldn't be in. And so removing that, yeah, it takes, obviously it hurts. And I think looking for me, it was already hard for me to make friends. It was already like I have my friends from middle school and anything like that came in through drinking. And so removing alcohol and then seeing a few friendships fade and having friendships fade before that, it really, I think, I almost want to say about 3 years, maybe even 4 years for me to be ready to open myself up to friendships again.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to say that to like scare people, but I also want to say that because I want you to know if that's something you're experiencing, that's normal. And it did take me some time to kind of figure out what I want in friendships, and I'm still figuring that out. But something that I'm like super, super proud of is I have two friends on my daughter's cheerleading team that I met just very authentically, came together with. We became friends very authentically, and neither one of them drink alcohol.
Wow. That's
And
cool.
they don't like for their own reasons, different ways, didn't drink alcohol anyways. And they were looking for another friend or they were in positions where they were the only person that didn't drink. And so it's almost like me taking that time to kind of like fine tune and lick my wounds, really, and feel sorry for the friendships that I had and the way that I allowed myself to be treated and understanding like what I want moving forward, like really just set my energy up into alignment to attract people that are aligned and the
Yeah.
connection is real. And like, not only do we have kids that are doing the same thing, but we all don't drink alcohol. And so that just makes our connections automatically focus on something completely different that has like sticky inside of you and
Yeah.
not just like
Sustenance,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like, oh.
something that actually is going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like my I think the way that the friendship dynamics changed for me was having to kind of realize why those friends were in my life, what I was giving them, what role I was playing,
Yes.
and then what I want moving forward. And I am a AUDHD 37-year-old introvert, and I have made four new friends, I would really say, in the last 2 years that I hope to have for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So those of us that feel like we can't make friends in our 30s, especially sober, you can.
Yes.
You can. I promise.
Yes.
If I
love
can,
that.
you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Should we switch from friendships to partnership?
Sure.
Sure.
Let's go. Let's hit
Because
it.
I really do feel like I could talk about friendships for
Ever
a
and
full
always.
hour.
Yeah, I know.
But I think that also the shift with your partner when you decide to become alcohol free is a
Yeah.
really big one too.
Yep.
Just in the way that maybe your partner is still drinking, maybe your partner decides to stop drinking with you. And so they're going on a rediscovery journey of themselves alongside of you.
Yep.
And also, this is when like it gets uncomfortable, when communication and honesty is so needed. And sometimes it's hard to get out, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I think we've talked about this with one of our guests, and my therapist always used this example for me back in the day. But when she would always talk about someone, like two couples or two people that love to eat fast food, and that's like their love language. And so, every time when they're off of work or on the weekends, they just pick fast food and they just love it. And then one day, one person is like, I don't really want to eat fast food anymore. And I kind of want to start running in the morning. Um, Totally valid for that person. Like, that person is now making a healthy decision, but it also leaves that person like, hey, this was our thing, this is what we did. And that person isn't choosing to stop eating fast food and go on a run in the morning. They still like fast food.
Yeah.
They still wanted to sit there and snuggle on their weekends. And so that's a natural thing that's going to happen when someone's making a decision that changes behavior that was shared.
Yes.
And usually, if you're in a partnership, drinking was a shared behavior at some point, unless you married someone that was already sober, which you would have known. But, I think even in my marriage, it took Philip like 3 years, or 2 years after I stopped drinking for him to make the choice. And it wasn't, an issue or anything for him. But I think that he quietly watched kind of some things in my life start to change. And that's what led to his decision. But it wasn't the same day as me.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys experienced that too, of like one person stopping first and just kind of having to deal with, okay, well, now this isn't the same. We're not doing things the same that we used to.
Yeah, no, totally. So Chris got sober before me. And it's so different. And I literally, if you're in my Saturday meeting, I say this all the time, like the value of in sobriety, talking with women and mothers, like it's such a subgroup, but it's so valuable because even when I talk to Chris about, the different like sobriety things, like, so for example, in a lot of these meetings, when I talk to other women, like sex, like once a woman is alcohol free and the man is still drinking or the partner is still drinking, like sex is so different. It's awkward at first when you were used to, having a little bit of liquid courage and all of that. It's like having sex again for the first time, and it's like so awkward. And you have to expect that awkwardness because you are a new person. Like all of this is just new and different. But that is from the woman's side. And when I talked to Chris about it, I'm like, so when you were sober and I was still drinking, like, well, how did you feel about that? And he was like, well, I liked it until you were sloppy. He's like, because you would be more promiscuous, like, inhibitions are gone.
Right.
I would never do some of that, like you're just more wild, you
Yes.
initiate more, all of those things. And then not drinking, you're like, oh my gosh, and it's not uncommon for women to say, hey, if you're going to drink tonight, then I'm not going to have sex with you tonight, and just like the women
Yes.
and man dynamic of how it is in sobriety is so different. So that's why I'm all on our Saturday meetings. That's all women because it's a mom's group. I'm always like this. There is value to this because a sober man does hear and feel things so different than a sober woman.
Well, and it's interesting too because I think a lot of the time with sex, this is what I was going to say. It reminds me of, and this is a very extreme example of when a woman gives birth. This is a very extreme example because a lot of time, either leading up to getting pregnant, you were trying to get pregnant.
Yes.
There are some people that are very horny when they're pregnant, for lack of a better word. So maybe sex was still happening. But then when the woman has the baby and the baby's her body now belongs to the baby, that is something that can be very, very hard on men because they are so used to having all of this sex with their wife, pregnant sex, trying to get pregnant sex, and now the wife or the mom is literally like, my body is not even my own. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel confident in this. And men don't understand that. Men, I'm watching, I always a Bravo girl here. If you're watching The Valley, Kristen and Luke, this is exactly what they're experiencing right now. Like, he's like, I need sex. And she's like, I don't even know my body. Like, I feel disgusting.
Yeah.
And I think that there is an element of sobriety that's like that in those scenario that you just talked about.
Yeah.
Because if there is a husband who's always used to his like frisky wife, getting frisky when she drinks, and that's when he gets, his needs met, then they're getting sober and the woman's like, wait, I don't know this sober body.
Yeah.
I don't know how to work this sober body. So I need some time. And the men are like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, what? I just want sex. And
Yeah.
so it's, that is such a good point too of how these dynamics affect, typical gender roles more, because women are just kind of coming back into their body and maybe they've only experienced sex with alcohol.
Yeah.
And so then they're having to rediscover absolutely everything. And it can be very, very hard on a man and a woman. But you know me, it was even hard for me to say that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if a woman is rediscovering her body, like give her some space. And I promise you, when she feels confident in her body, she will be the most sexiest and you guys will have the most sex.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you can be
And
patient, it's worth it.
It is. And like Jess just said, like I did not have sober sex once until I was sober.
Yeah.
Like I did not, even with I was married and I still could not have sex sober. And that also, I do have sex trauma and all of that. And I've gone to therapy and now it's very different. But in those times, like that was not even a thing, And so then for Chris and I to have to like redefine our sex life, find out what we actually like. And that again, where the communication comes in. If you know what you like, tell your husband. He doesn't want to be trying to figure it out. Tell your partner, it's like, but then again, we get into these gender roles where we're like, no, they should know. He should be able to do that. But this is when your confidence does need to rear up. You will get the confidence. You tell them what, like being upfront is not a bad thing. And I promise you, your partner is going to thank you if they've been doing it wrong the whole time. And you're like, well, actually, this is what I would prefer, and different things like that. The dynamics do change, but it's not always going to be for the worse. It's going to take a little bit of bumpy awkwardness figuring it out. But then literally you're going to have the most awesome sober sex ever once you can actually get over that hump.
Yes. Well, the confidence too is like, I'm glad that you brought that up because like in sex, almost feels black and white, like you're either very confident or very vulnerable. And when you are very vulnerable in sex, you need to be with a partner who respects that vulnerability and gives time and space. And a lot of time when we were drinking alcohol, the confidence that we had in sex was pseudo confidence. It was
Yes.
fake.
Yes.
And so we felt like, like I just think of like Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls, like we
Yeah.
felt like we were so hot, but it was all fake. And so when you strip that fake confidence and you leave that vulnerability, like that vulnerability has to live and thrive until it turns into confidence. And I really feel like if you are forced into these situations and your vulnerability isn't ready, like it's always going to be traumatic.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want here, and that's not
No.
what you want with your partner. And by the way, if your partner is a man, he probably does need some directions, so
Yes.
just show him where it is.
Yes.
But
Ah,
like I think sex is almost the first one that is encountered, because if your partner is a male, that is something that usually is their love language, and is, the sex issue is probably something that is confronted first. And then there's the issues that come after that. And I'm speaking from a perspective of two sober people. And I know that we did like an episode in the closet. I don't know what season it was, but we were in the closet because I can picture it perfectly. And we were talking about how we like rarely fight with our spouses. That might be true for you still. That is not true for me anymore. Things have changed. Our dynamics changed a lot in our marriage. And I would say that what happened in sobriety is uh after a few years into it for my husband and obviously for myself, like all of the stuff that you have been masking with alcohol, it comes up to the surface. And maybe some people don't have a lot of stuff that comes up to the surface, and maybe some people do. And in this, my husband and I are now raw dogging our childhood trauma. We don't or we're not using alcohol to, forget, or when we get uncomfortable. We're having to confront it face on, and that has shifted and changed our relationship in so many ways. And I think having a neurodivergent partner, a question mark partner, but like dealing with these emotions and experiences completely sober when you weren't taught how to deal with them at all in any way. And so you learn to use alcohol or whatever way you learned. Like it has taken Philip and I to the brink of the end of our marriage, like more times than I'd like to admit, because so much comes up when you're not hiding it anymore,
yeah.
or when you're not running from it anymore, when you have to turn around and look at it. And um not to say that your relationship will ever be as intense. I've just been gifted with a life of intensity, and so to be expected for me. But that's also something that can change whether one partner is stepping away from alcohol or both. At some point, you are going to come face to face with why you were masking with alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's going to have to be healed, looked at, given space for, have vulnerability for by both partners.
Yeah.
And if both of those are happening at the same time, like you can only imagine the struggle and the hardship that you're going to go through. But at the end of the day, like it's the most authentic way that you're ever going to get through something. And you can always look back and be like, even if I didn't handle that the best way, even if I never wanted that situation to happen, like that was me being me at the purest, expression of who I am. And I wasn't hiding anything, and I wasn't trying to run from anything anymore. And all I'm trying to do is kind of just like figure out how to love myself and you better.
Yeah.
And those dynamics, I think I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. And two, I think in that like rediscovery of yourself, you're feeling for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And in 30 years,
Some
And
people
it's
never
like,
felt,
yeah,
yeah.
like you were never feeling, you were just numbing, you were distracting, you were self-harming, doing anything possible to not have these authentic feelings that feel too big, And so now we're at the point in our lives where we can't avoid them anymore. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people in sobriety too are like, why is all of this happening? I'm supposed to be on the wellness spiral that you guys all
Mm.
talk about. And it's like, well, no, you're plugged back in. You're seeing the sunset. You are acknowledging the things around you. You're becoming more self-aware. You're figuring out what you don't like, what you do like in your
Yes.
friendships, in your marriage. Like there is so much happening. And I just think that if you can just give yourself some time to realize that you are evolving and that it's not always going to be this hard, that these dynamics do change, but it will be for the better.
For the better and for a purpose, because just as in our friendships, within our marriage, there was roles that we
Yes.
played from the very
Mm.
beginning that we didn't really understand we were playing. And I think a big struggle in my marriage, if I can be like completely honest and frank, is that like when I was drunk for Philip, it was a lot easier to write off whatever behavior I was having as, oh, she's drunk. But then when I'm in like emotional dysregulation, even now being diagnosed neurodivergent, it's it's harder for him because I'm not drinking to look at me and think that I'm not like making this up or like feeling this extreme feeling for funsies or because I want to.
Funsies.
Like, yay, I just want to get mad right now. Because when I was drinking, it gave him an excuse. It
Yes.
gave him a write off. And I honestly thought getting an ADHD diagnosis would be more for him, like, oh, this is why she does what she does. But I think it's been harder for him. I think it's been harder for him to be like, make sense of it all. And the alcohol just gave such an easy, like, oh, she's like that because she gets drunk. No, babe, I'm like that because I have CTPSD and ADHD and autism and all the things, that I was masking. And so that's another part of like understanding the roles you played and why you played them. And like that's going to change now moving forward because you understand it and you're like, you probably don't want that role anymore.
Yeah. And I'm going to quote my most favorite lady. Her name is Susan. And she tells all of us women all the time in our alcohol-free meetings, we are not math equations. There is no answer.
Yes, I
And that
like
is
that.
exactly what Jess just said. Like, our partner's trying to find an answer to why we are behaving this way.
Yes.
And there might not ever be an
An
answer.
exact formula.
Yeah. And it's because we're not math equations.
Mhm.
We have feelings and all of these. And I always come back to that. Literally, even when I'm struggling, I'm like, why? Why is this happening? And I tell myself, there is no answer. I just have
Mhm.
to sit in it. I have to feel it. I'm not numbing it. And it sucks sometimes,
Yeah.
But there also are great things about the dynamics changing. Maybe you're spending time with people that's more intentional and not wasting your time
Mhm.
with people that you would never be around, that you were
Mhm.
stuck to by alcohol.
Yeah, or even like couples that have different habits than you or talk to each other in different ways than you and you were like around them and drinking and made that a part of like how your dynamic was when that was never your dynamic to begin with.
Yes.
And it is for the good and like even anything that you're doing to discover who you are more is going to bring so much more enrichment to any relationship
Yeah,
you're
and it's
in.
not always going to be easy. It's going to be awkward, it's going to be messy, it's going to be beautiful, but it's a road.
You are so right. It is a road. And the road that we are on is the one less traveled. And so everything is going to change. Once you change your direction, everything is going to start changing for you. And there are so many other dynamics beyond what we've mentioned that you have probably already felt or are going to feel. And so just understanding that that is not only a part of your sobriety journey, but that's a part of life. I mean, things are always going to change, things are always going to shift, and it's always, not always, but a lot of the time going to be out of our control. The things that are changing in our sobriety sometimes can be in our control as long as we are open to it and we are ready for it and we have a good support system.
I love that.
Yeah. So, wherever you are and whatever dynamics are changing in your life, just know that it's okay. It's going to be for the better. You are on the right path and you've got us. We love you, babes.
Talk soon. Perfect.
Perfection is good for me.